Okay, well, I meant.
You know, about.
All right.
Almost perfect. So then you just take tape, and you take the next thing you want to do is, see how the corners hang? This is a terrible trip hazard. You do not want somebody to get tangled up in this and then pull your whole display onto the floor, or fall down and hurt themselves. So you want to make sure that you have, and it's kind of like just wrapping a present. Real easy. Take your tape, and you just pull this up so that you have a nice corner. Not too much tape, but anyway, you get the idea. Sticky side.
You take like my husband.
Well, it's because I'm trying to do it all by myself here. Somebody should be getting the tape for me.
Here, I'll get the tape for you. You hold it.
It's
We need an
it's
assistant.
hard to hold the tablecloth and get the tape.
Your suit
But
tape.
see how that works? Okay? They have total tripping hazards everywhere, and I so wanted to get my tape out, but it wasn't my gig, and so I just kept my mouth shut. So that's how you're going to make it look nice and clean, and this would be one side. Now, if I'm doing your stuff in, you know what I mean? Like everything had to come in a box or crate. These work great. When I'm catering and I'm moving everything to a site, I really try to just utilize what I already have. I try not to like go out of my way. You can even go below into your customers' pantry and get a bowl, a box, whatever. But you do want to have some varying heights, because it just makes it look a little more appealing. You do want to make sure that whatever you're putting your stuff on is sturdy, though. I mean, you don't want a box that's, flimsy and it bows in the middle, and then when I put my, chilled oysters on the half shell on here that's super heavy, it doesn't collapse. So be careful that everything is sturdy. So the next thing that you want to do is put your overlay on. And there's lots of different ways you can do this. If you like it, it could just be real straight. Depends on the event and what it is that you're doing. So it could just be, these are terribly wrinkled, but it can be real straight, and then you just, pull it in and around your items and keep it real straight. Or you can go real organic. I have done like pieces of fabric, taffeta, runners, all different kinds of things. This is a way to really incorporate into your event a theme. Recently I did a Rasta funeral, and I went. It was kind of cool. It was like a celebration. This guy was awesome. He was a friend of a family in my kids' school, and he got killed in a motorcycle accident. He was kind of a young guy, total Rasta. Cool guy, and we wanted to make this funeral a celebration of his life, and so I went and bought yards of fabric, just those Rasta colors, and set up and it was all donations. The community came together, just unbelievable. We just put out a thing, and I was there to just organize it and make it look good, and it just turned out so awesome. But we had this Rasta striped, and it just, it set the tone for a true, celebration. I mean, it was pretty cool. So it's amazing how little things like that, little touches like that can, make a difference in the attitude of your guests, for sure. They walk in and they see that, and you're like, okay, simple platters, okay? Like I said, I like to kind of do just all white. It's okay to have different shapes. This is enough, Lillian. This is fine. It's not a big deal. These are kind of dirty. I wouldn't want to do that, probably. You know what I mean? You want to make sure that you choose ones that, that fit, so they're not going to fall off. Make sure you have the right size. But you could definitely do different shapes, too. It doesn't have to all be oblong. You could do some squares, some oval, that kind of thing. Next thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you have, not these tongs, you want to have nice serving utensils that are appropriate to each dish. There's nothing more annoying than trying to serve yourself and there's no serving utensil. We do that all the time in here. It's done, here you go. Oh, awesome, now how are we going to eat it? So make sure that you definitely want to incorporate a tongue or a spoon or whatever it is that you need. Another way that you can control consumption, because on a buffet a lot of times you need to control consumption, is by the size of the plate. If this is an appetizer buffet and it is meant to be light appetizers, you serve a small plate. If it's heavy, you give a bigger plate. But this just gives, I mean, the size of the plate really does help to control, you know, how much guests can take. They can only fit so much on their plate. There'll be those ones that, you know, line them up and maybe take 3 or 4, and that's fine. But the majority of them are just going to take one plate, you know what I mean, and then they'll come back. I like to put my plates at the beginning and my napkins and my forks at the end. That way they're not trying, they're going through and they're serving themselves. It's hard enough to carry your fork, your napkin. Ideally, if they're going to have somewhere to sit, like a table, you would put the silverware and the linen at the table. But if it is, you know, maybe just stand around kind of thing, which a lot of them are, there's no seating at all, then you want to put that at the end, okay? So keep that in mind as well. And then I did want to show you real quick how to set up a chafing dish. So, well, this will work, okay. Glass blocks that you just purchased at like Home Depot and stack them in an oblong, and then put your sternos. The sternos have to sit up off of the linen though, because you know they get hot, and so you don't want it to catch on fire. So you want a bigger pan in the bottom, a deeper pan in the bottom, I should say. Okay, so you probably want a 400 or a 600. And you need, if this is meant to keep the food hot, it needs to be hot when the food goes into it. That's really important. So you need to set this up a good half hour ahead, and you need to put hot water into it. That will expedite it. Get hot water into it. If you're using cold water, then you probably need to set it up an hour ahead so the water has a chance to get hot. Then so your water goes into here and it goes, you're going to put another pan, 200 pan, on top of that. Okay, this is not a perfect fit, but you get the idea. And then the lid on top. The hard part about this is if you have a large group and they're serving themselves, you almost have to have the lid off, you know what I mean? So this only goes on while you're waiting, and then it would have to come off, and you want to make sure you have the appropriate serving. If it's like lasagna or something like that, you want to make sure everything is sliced and ready. It has to be sliced and ready because that's how you make things happen quickly. You don't want there to be a backlog, okay? And this should be all like polished. This is dusty and gross. So you want to make sure everything is clean and polished. Yes? Okay, so you know what I'm talking about when I say glass blocks? Okay, so you purchase them at like Home Depot, and they're these little blocks made out of glass. It was really popular. Maybe yes, remember they used to be really popular. Well, you could purchase those, and they're kind of like, they're almost like a Lego kind of thing. You know what I mean? They'll just sit on top of each other. They're kind of wide, so they stack real easily. But you could get 2 and go, you know, too high, I should say. It's probably 3 by 2. And you don't need the stand then. You use that as your stand. And then you put your sternos inside. And it looks a little bit better. It's still not awesome. I've seen it done that way. And then instead of using a chafing dish, you use a platter. Maybe those ones that are made out of stainless steel that hold heat well. Like I have a couple of those at home. You can heat them, they go into the oven, and so then you put your food on it and it stays hot longer. And it looks a lot nicer than a chafing dish. I mean, it is very difficult to garnish this and make this look good. You know, especially after the first person digs into it, it's a total mess. So I try not to do this if I can help it. It does require a lot more attention because you have to turn the food out a lot more often to keep it the right temperature. Okay? And next week we're doing fruit, so you can set up a buffet for your fruit. Okay, so I'd like to see you guys do that next week. All right? Yes?
One of the ways to garnish it that we do is we tie napkins, you know, the silk.
Okay,
nice
right,
napkins,
sure.
tie
On top of the,
handle.
sure, yeah. Linen napkins can get tied on top. It makes it easy to take them on and off when these do get hot. And yeah, that looks good. You're right, absolutely. I don't have to do it. That's a great idea. And then here, sometimes you do want to make this look pretty. Maybe you've ordered an extra centerpiece. You've told, that you say you've got a centerpiece for this. Another thing you could do is you could lay out, lemon leaves, a little bit of greenery, that kind of thing. Some edible. Everything should be edible though. You have to make sure that if it gets into the food, that it's not going to poison somebody, right? So what is it? Magnolia is that the one that's so deadly? Poinsettia. At Christmas, you don't want poinsettias on your table, So be careful about that. Okay. For your assignments today,